All right, so at this point you should have attempted this. This is saying we want to write it in a plus or minus bi form. This is what you could think of as standard form for a complex solution. So we always write our a, which is our real part of the complex solution, and then we write our bi, which is the imaginary part of our complex solution. So we always write the real and then the imaginary. So for the first one, the real part stays 3. It's already first, so I can just leave it as 3, plus, and notice here I'm not writing plus or minus. I'm just writing plus because that's what I see. We write plus or minus here because we don't know if it's going to be a positive sign right here or a negative sign like these. So don't change it to a plus or minus. Whoop, it's not letting me erase it. There we go. Okay, so for this one, I just need to ask myself, well, what's the square root of 49? Square root of 49 is 7. But I don't care about the square root of 49. I actually care about the square root of negative 49. So when that negative is underneath the radical, all we really need to do is make it an I. So we get 7i here. And the reasoning that we've gone with in the previous videos is because I can break this up into the square root of 49 times the square root of negative 1. But again, hopefully the more practice you get, you'll just be able to go straight to this step instead. All right, so for number 2, automatically I have an issue. I do not see this in a plus or minus bi form, but I'm just going to do it as I see it and then fix it later. So the square root of 4 is 2. So the square root of a negative 4 is 2i. 2i. Don't like that I. 2i. There we go. And then my minus 6 just comes down. So all I need to do now is just put this in the correct order. This is my real number, negative 6, plus, because this is a positive 2i, my imaginary number, 2i. Oh, didn't like that. Oh, goodness. Okay. Sorry. Okay, so minus 6 plus 2i. There we go, and I'm trying to circle my answer. Oh my goodness, my pen is just going haywire. Okay, so I'm just gonna leave it like that. All right, so number 3, 7, my real number comes down, my minus sign comes down, and then I ask myself, what's the square root of 25? Well, that would be 5 because 5 times 5 is 25. So the square root of negative 25 is going to be 5i. All right, and then I come over here. What's the square root of negative 1? Well, we told you that flat out. The square root of negative 1 is I. So this gives me I plus 2. But again, it's not written in the correct order, so I just need to switch it. 2 plus I. All right, and then I got some more down here. Oh. Why does it keep going back up? All right, so notice I have a negative on the outside here. That has nothing to do with my radical, so I'm going to bring that negative down. I need that. Now I'm going to say, well, what's the square root of 121? Is it a perfect square? Try it in your calculator. Take the square root of 121. Spoiler alert, it is a perfect square. So the square root of 121 is 11. So that means the square root of negative 121 is 11i. And remember, this negative in front came straight down from here. And now my minus 2 is going to come down. But again, it has to be in the reverse order. So my real number has to come first. Negative 2 is a real number. And then my imaginary number, negative 11i. All right. Now over here, square root of 50. I know square root of 50 is not a perfect square because 49 is a perfect square, and the next perfect square after 49 is 64. So I'm going to have to do a little work here. So I'm going to ask myself, what are the factors of 50? Well, I have 1 times 50, That doesn't really help me. 2 times 25. And I'm going to stop there because 25 is a perfect square. So this becomes the square root of 25 times the square root of negative 1 times the square root of 2 minus 7. My negative 7 just comes down. And now, again, we ask ourselves, what's the square root of 25? Well, that's 5. What's the square root of negative 1? That's I. And what's the square root of negative 2? It is not a perfect square, so we leave it underneath the radical minus 7. But again, now I have my imaginary first, so I don't want that. So I just need to switch these now. So I'm going to change it to negative 7 plus, because this is a positive 5i root 2, so 5i square root 2. All right. And that was the practice.